introduce Erin for you. So Dr. Lowe is the Associate Director of Data and Integration with Boehringer Ingelheim Animal Health, and we work in the Integrated Health Management team, which is part of our swine division. So as I mentioned, Dr. Erin Lowe is a veterinarian by trade, and she's a lifelong learner that's working on a master's degree in data management as well. So I am going to pass the mic off to her to talk about the ecosystem in integrated health management.
Thanks.
And we'll get you.
So as Kelly said, we're part of Boehringer Ingelheim, so we're an animal health company. So a little bit strange to have a veterinarian come talk about data, but as we are one of the larger of the animal health companies and the largest in swine, we have always had a large swine team, particularly in the United States. So we're the global leader in swine products. And at one point in time, we were known as like the largest swine veterinary practice in the US because we had the largest number of swine veterinarians on staff. But over time, we're now evolving, right? So in the past, in the swine industry, we have moved from treatment to prevention.
Okay, so go ahead and advance.
No worries. Perfect.
Thank you. There we are.
So in the past maybe 20 years or so, we've really moved from treatment to prevention, right? So we're a vaccine company, so we don't sell antibiotics on the pig side at least. And we've helped the industry by improving diagnostic techniques, by helping different labs across the United States standardize their diagnostic techniques, by doing research in biosecurity and filtration in order to keep diseases out, and by helping producers with data management so that they can aggregate their data together in neighborhoods in order to understand how diseases transmit over time. So all those things is not just selling vaccine in a bottle, but also helping in other ways to prevent disease. And as we evolve as an industry, our industry evolves around us too, right? So a lot of these things you feel in different segments of agriculture, and we certainly feel them in the swine industry. We're seeing this increased geographic diversity of operations, so it's not as easy to get to every single farm all the time. We see a lot of the non-connected and analog data. So a lot of, I have this data in a certain silo and it doesn't connect to other silos. You're certainly seeing the labor shortages. I mean, we have PhDs that I've heard loading hogs lately, just because we can't get people to come and be able to do that on a regular basis. We've got certain things in the industry we talked about today, even with transparency and compliance. So with the people that buy the product, they're asking for certain attributes or certain things about that product or to understand about that. In our case, there's a lot of regulation relative to what does our packer expect of us and what things do we have to require to be written down or to have a record of from those packers. So we need to address that. And then we've got the antibiotic use as well that we need to document and attempt to reduce. So going back to BI, we have to evolve as well, right? So as our industry evolves, what is our next steps to evolve? So if we're going from treatment to prevention, what is beyond prevention? So our belief is that if we take an ecosystem approach to this integrated health management, as we're calling it, that it'll take us beyond prevention. And our hope is it'll help us take us more toward prediction. So being able to predict what's going to happen rather than just simply react to it when it does happen from a health standpoint. This is kind of the schematic that we're using to describe the ecosystem or the producer ecosystem. So on the left, you'll see if you're a pig producer, you're on the left side here, and this is what you deal with every day, right? You're making the genetic decisions, you're making the environmental decisions. You've got things happening on the nutrition side, management side, and health sits in its own sort of corner. And all those things are so interrelated that, you know, when you make one change, it can change things in other sides. So you want to diagnose, monitor what's going on, you want to intervene, you want to analyze and predict what you think is going to happen or hope is going to happen with that change, and you'd like to measure that. Oftentimes what we see though is that health tends to silo itself, right? It tends to go off to the side with the veterinarians. They have their diagnostic database. It doesn't tie into anything else. And you especially see that on the health and nutrition side, right? The age-old argument or which one's right, that health health professional, the veterinarian, or the nutritionist. So what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to, with this integrated health management ecosystem, is to really shore up and support this side, this side of the equation, the right side of the equation, so that there's more robust data there that can then also integrate back into a lot of those other things and a lot of the things that you've talked about here today, right? So how does it tie into the financials so it makes sense as to what you're doing on the health side? Does this health decision make sense for my operation? Can I measure it and assess it and decide if that's a good capital investment or not? So whether that's on the feed side for us or whether it's on the financial side, those are all important. You need to have the information to be able to make those decisions. So I think with anyone, as you develop these models, you always put yourself in the center, right? So if I were a producer, this is not you in the center, right? This would be us in the center. So this is how we see our component of integrated health management. So we've got these types of things on the outside that we'd like to connect to, that we think are going to help us better assess, understand health, explain it, and then predict it down the road. And at the top, you see all the smart things. Some of those smart things are out there, we're already connected to, and some of those smart things are not yet there, don't exist. But we'd like to have some smart dosing technology to make sure that we're getting the right dose at the right time into the right pigs. We'd like to have some more smart ID or some more used smart ID, at least in our industry, and tracking of individual animals or groups of animals over time. We're working through a lot of sensor things, right? So the IoT as an innovation in IT right now, that's what's coming. And we've worked with a partner company out of Belgium, working with the SoundTalks devices in order to hang the microphones in the swine barns in order to assess coughing and alert us on coughing, using as a measure, as an indicator of health. And then the next two on either side here are really what we need help on the IT side from, right? We need the data analytics and those platforms in order to be able to bring that information together and look at it and make sense out of it. But we also need this intelligent decision support, right? So some of this AI. And at the bottom, we can't raise pigs today without people. So we have to find ways to either communicate better, improve transparency, help develop a culture of accountability, particularly in the hog barns. And so we think that this whole piece here, this whole puzzle here is part of this integrated health ecosystem will help drive us forward. So you see there's a Farmera logo in the middle, and that's where we started. So we started with this digital platform called Farmera. It's meant to aid grow finish producers. So we started in the grow finish phase, so post weaning, meant to aid them in inventory tracking, treatment tracking, and allow them to visualize and understand those sensor integrations. So it also has, it has one interface where the caregiver sees like easy to operate, easy to enter data, just simple, easy to walk through app for that individual site that they're taking care of or multiple sites that they're taking care of. So it's kind of a daily walkthrough checklist. And then we also have a different app that would be overseeing many sites for our supervisor teams. So that'd be for more people that would go to multiple farms throughout the day and need to oversee many sites. So they don't necessarily need a task-oriented, I'm going to enter information daily, but they have more of a visual oversight of what's really happening on multiple farms at one time. Then there's also the web platform, which has more, a little bit more analytical capabilities as well as the admin capabilities. This is a little bit of a history about Farmera. So obviously we are an animal health company, not a digital company, but we do have a digital lab. So as a health company, also in the human health space, we have a large IT team and what we call a digital lab, the VIX team. And you are allowed to submit projects to them that might be beneficial. And so the project actually got submitted in 2018, the summer of 2018, in order to give it a 6-month trial to create a minimum viable product. We had that completed. We also did some market research at that point in time. It looked like it could fly as a decent business proposition. So they gave us the green light to go out in 2019 and use it for some testing to see if it might work. Meaning that, users could use it. Caregivers would actually do it on their own phones in their own barns, and then it would go off like we'd hoped. It did go well in so much that they allowed us to create our own team in the United States in 2019, the end of 2019. And then we've established our first sale in 2020, as well as made it part of our global swine strategy. So as a vaccine company, we were doing the R&D in the United States. So you saw the early R&D as a minimum viable product, the next phase of R&D, and now we're actually deciding to make it part of the strategy. In 2021, obviously, we've dealt with 2020's COVID. So we've gotten very good at doing these things digitally, or at least on Teams and on Zoom. I'm much better at it than I was before. And we've also worked to take a step back with the product and make the product more robust for future connections. So with a minimum viable product, you make something, it's relatively small and easy to use, but it's not as easy to build on. It's like building on a house and adding extra things into your kitchen, but now you can't run your dishwasher and your microwave at the same time, right? So what we did was we compartmentalized that with a refactoring process so that we can make more connections down the road that'll have fewer dependencies on other things so that we can make the product more robust relative to our ecosystem ambitions. So as I said, we want to move from treatment to prevention, and then we want to go beyond prevention. And I saw this quote, it was just in LinkedIn from our president in animal health, but just that we understand as BI, and in the swine team specifically, we understand that no one company can provide all of these solutions. If we try to go build something on our own, we're not going to do very well at it. We're certainly not experts in IT, we're not experts in sensors, we're not experts in connectivity, but we are experts in health. So how do we take that subject matter expertise and drive it into this digital space for producers? We also think that all of these products will be independent of their own. They need to stand on their own, but they will be bigger and will work better together to provide a better benefit to the ecosystem as a whole. And so with that, I just wanted to kind of land here to say that we are working with several partners. I mentioned the SoundTalks team as a partner, and in being able to put those coughing monitors into our grow finish barns. We also have integrations with Prairie Systems into Farmera. We've got, we worked with Summit Smart Farms, so John's certainly going to talk too. And then more recently, we have worked with Realm 5, and Austin's going to speak just about our sensor integration, really trying to take those sensors that are important to livestock and bring them to the caregivers and to the supervisors who manage those pigs so that they can see them in real time relative to the ages of the pigs and the number of pigs that might be in there. So the sensor data is lovely if you've got a lot of it. If you've got a lot of water meter data, that's fantastic. Right up until the time you don't know how many pigs were in that barn when that water meter was going and how old they were. Both of those are key pieces of information if you want to know anything about what that water meter really means. So our hope is to contextualize some of that information so that it's easier to interpret, it's easier for those caregivers to interpret, it's easier for those people to see that there's a problem and they can react and do something about it. So I believe that's my time. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take them. We'll be here tonight too, but if you want to learn more, you can go to farmera.com to see that. And there's a link there if you'd like to email us or ask us any specific questions. You will just get Kaylee and I. So that's kind of how that works.
All right, thank you, Erin and Kaylee.